toxic of any snake.
What's happening, guys? Kenan Harkin here with the Reptile Discovery Center, and today we're going to be watching Carl Barnum milk a few different species of venomous snakes so he can get the venom, and we're going to find out what they do with that venom here. It's going to be a great episode, so stick around. A good portion of my life has been all about action, which still holds true. But now I pour all that time and energy into wildlife conservation, education, and the pursuit of knowledge. This is Kamp Kenan.
A member of the elapid family, he has a small front.
Alright, so as you can see, we're back here. Carl's working with a coral snake, the eastern coral snake, and right now they're doing a little tube feeding. And we've seen this before in some episodes of Kamp Kenan, so this is pretty exciting. So Carl, you'd like to do a feeding when you handle the snake as well?
Right after we extract them, right? So just as long as we've got them up, in other words, that event itself is somewhat stressful. So as long as he's already caught it in our hands, we use that opportunity to feed after we collect his venom. Just with the corals. Everybody else, of course, eats voluntarily. So they're on a different schedule, but the coral snakes, because they're tube fed, they wind up on that same extraction feeding.
Why the tube feeding with the coral snakes? You can't feed them rodents, it's just, is that it?
Corals are snake eaters, almost exclusively. It's super tough to transition them to other food items. Sometimes people have luck, but we have 70 coral snakes.
Right, you gotta just keep it going.
So we had to come up with some method of feeding them that was practical and that would work. And this works beautifully. We've had guys on this formula for years.
Antivenom is extremely important in treating coral snake bites.
Now, would you say sometimes the coral snakes are a little bit more tricky to grab behind the neck?
Once again,
You know, I say this carefully, but coral snakes typically don't want to bite. So that makes handling them somewhat easier. The reason I say I'm hesitant to say it that way is, of course, when you think somebody's not going to bite, they turn around and bite you. And so they kind of bite as a last resort, and it allows us to handle them just a little bit differently than perhaps a pit viper or something of that nature, or even a cobra. But it's the only snake that will freehand like that where we don't restrain them prior to grabbing them.
Alright, so you grew up in New York, you were a pilot. Why snakes, and how did it all occur for you, man?
So the snake thing started when I was a kid in the Northeast. My brothers used to catch garter snakes and turtles, that kind of stuff, and bring it home, and that's where I got the bug. I was probably 5 years old. And then that kind of continued through grade school.
That's it.
And then in junior high school, I was lucky enough to have a science teacher that was also a reptile importer.
Nice.
So I got exposed, this was the 70s, and tons of stuff was still coming into the country, and I got exposed to huge numbers of reptiles through my science teacher. And then it kind of really took off from there, and I moved to Florida. I became a zookeeper, went to college, and I was trying to figure out a way to build this serpentarium, and I couldn't figure out how to do that, at least at that time, on a zookeeper's salary. So two of my older brothers were flying at the time, and my oldest brother said, look, this flying thing might provide you blocks of time, and you know, it might be a good way to seed your serpentarium plan. So I got all my ratings, and I started teaching, I started flight instructing, started flying for a living, and at the same time, of course, I was accruing snakes, and I started producing venom in my kitchen. I had snakes all over the house I was in, and Bill Haas started buying my venom. And so then we were kind of able to keep going, and we found the current property. So we built the lab 18 years ago, 1999. And then I flew for another, well, almost 15 years. And the whole time doing both things, producing venom and running business and flying for my income. And so we opened it up, you know, built the rest of it, and then opened it to the public in 2009. So it's kind of been my whole life to get it to this point, but you know, so far, anyway, it's worked.
That's fantastic.
So we've been lucky, you know.
That's really cool, because a lot of our viewers want to know, how do we get involved in reptiles, what can we do? Now, obviously what you do is a very specialized area of it. That's why I'm so excited to be here today, to see exactly the inner working.
you know, it's funny, we have a lot of young people, as you say, who come and say, well, how can I get started? And you know, we always steer people to an education, you know, some kind of biology or zoology background, something of that, natural science. And then from there, we always say zoo field. You know, we always think being a zookeeper is a great way to get going and kind of get things started. And
Very efficient. Well-oiled machine here.
yeah, that's the idea. You know, no changes, no, and it just keeps it safer. So we'll try and do the same thing almost every single time out, you know. And we're just bringing that venom up because we're going to move it from here into a centrifuge tube.
Okay.
So we'll go into the refrigerator till the end of the program, then from there we'll transfer it to a tube and then into a refrigerated centrifuge to clean it up. Yeah.
What kind of an investment, besides your entire life, is all of these, all this equipment? I mean, this is like a lab. This
You know,
reminds
it's so
me
funny.
of biology and
Yeah,
college.
it's hard to put a number on it only because it's all happened over time.
Gotcha.
But people will say sometimes, you know, what do I need to get started to get, you know, going up? And we always think, new equipment, forget it, it's almost prohibitive. You're talking about tens of thousands of dollars, ridiculous. But used equipment, then you can get into something a little more palatable, you know, something. And so, I don't know because I haven't done it in so long, but you could probably get your basics set up. And we're not talking about all the ancillary stuff, all the tubes and bottles and all that stuff, but we think you could probably get that thing up and running somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, processing equipment, maybe 25 grand, something like that. 20, I don't know.
Yeah.
As I could be off, but
It ain't cheap. And,
no, right, all those things, right?
Yep.
You know, as I said, we've done it over time, so it's been a reasonable thing to have happen, but I always think if you condensed everything that's gone on here in the last 25 years into 2 years' time, including the snake bites, forget it, you know? So it's a funny thing. It's just I kept trucking, you know, one thing at a time.
Rattlesnake prepated and it's in decline in many areas where it was.
here we go. He's, yeah, that's a big, heavy-bodied snake. That's the worst snake bite you'll get in the United States just because of the amount of venom that animal has. Not necessarily the toxicity, right?
What's that?
The bite of an eastern diamondback is pretty bad because of the amount of venom
Yeah.
they put in you, not necessarily because of the toxicity.
Toxicity too. You know,
Okay.
toxicity also, Eastern diamondback venom is no slouch, but quantity is the big part of that.
Gotcha.
Diamondbacks feed
Here we go.
exclusively on warm-blooded prey. With rabbits, rats, and squirrels
No, you're good. No, you're perfect.
all being normal parts of an adult's diet.
It's a little gnarlier. Ooh, hello there. It's a little gnarlier when you got a big-bodied snake like that
Of a
that has a lot of strength in it.
A serious bite by this snake in an adult or
My
as a
God.
child can rapidly be fatal if not treated promptly and properly with antivenom. Discovery Center and the Thompson Venom Laboratory.
Dude, that was a lot of venom, man. I mean, it exploded out of the animal's mouth. I mean, look at the yield that guy gave you there. So that is more than enough venom to knock you out.
It's a bad snake there.
Diamondback rattlesnake risk. Keen care is taken in handling these snakes both for safety and to ensure a supply of venom for antiserum. And we work diligently on our captive breeding program, hoping to ensure a stable and productive colony of eastern diamondback.
Easy, hold on. He's all wound up. Hold on one second.
Come around behind.
Good? Hold on. Yeah. That might shot. Good. Don't change anything. Good.
Can I go? You need a hug?
No, I'm okay.
This is really intense, man. And you guys are romantically involved, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's fantastic.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so
they
too.
work together. There's a lot of trust in this relationship. Let's be
I don't
honest.
want to come to work and make her mad.
That's right. That makes a lot of
Myself
sense.
in real trouble.
Oh gosh. Whew. You know, I used to be something of an adrenaline junkie when I rode BMX and so on. But this is a whole different respect when you're working around a hot snake. You know, it's I
Different
don't know.
picture. huh?
Do you
It's
get?
a little more
Yeah,
interesting.
it definitely does. Wow. Whew. Especially when they start to move about. Let's see who we get now. I have an idea.
These are going to be Asian cobras, guys.
So now we're going on to another elapid. The coral snake was an elapid. It's North America's elapid, but now they're going to one of the most famous elapid snakes, and that is going to be the Asiatic cobra.
You ready?
Yeah.
And you'll notice these guys are way more spindly.
Scaring away a potential intruder.
I'm going to step back a little bit. And I know Tom's going to step back
Stories
too.
about the emblem on
Here we go.
the cobra's hood. Its real purpose is probably to confuse predators.
This snake is named Website, and he's named Website because he's on our
Are
website as
extremely
a picture,
dangerous.
and he's getting old now, and he's slowing
They have
down.
a very toxic
But as a young
venom
snake,
and are
he
capable
was
of producing large quantities.
terrifically nervous and very, very spirited.
The Asiatic and this close
kind of a
relative,
fun
the
snake
Indian
to work
cobra,
Yeah, I can tell.
are still
Pretty good for an old
responsible
man.
for many snakebite deaths
Don't
each
you
year.
bite me, no. No.
Ranging over a large part of Southeast Asia, the monocle cobra is still quite common in many areas.
And he's still a good producer for his
Wow.
old age.
Yeah, that looks amazing. How old is he?
Cobras
You
possess
think
a
about
small,
20.
Oh my
fixed
God.
He wasn't
front
born here, but we
fang.
got him young.
And as
Okay.
the
And,
snakes are induced to bite, you can often see these fangs.
Thanks, man.
Cobra venoms often contain
Doesn't it
powerful
bug you guys out just how
neurotoxins
casually he's working around these animals? It's incredible, man. But Carl is one of the foremost respected snake handlers and venom extractors. So it's really cool for me to be back here to see how he does it. And to remind me why I don't think I'd ever want to get involved in snake extraction. Let me move away now, because there's a cobra behind me. Gotcha, copy that.
During a single extraction.
And now you can see.
Cobra venom is rich in a host of proteins and toxins. Monocle cobra venom is used not only to make antivenom, but is currently being used in viral research, organ transplant work, neuromuscular chemistry,
Incredible.
and the list goes on.
Great catch, man. So, you know, these guys are sight, you know, more based on sight.
Most
So as
cobras
soon as you move, they're going to
Make
follow you.
long-lived
They're tricky.
and hardy captives.
Right. And I always think, you know,
Many of the
George
cobras
said
you
it best
see
one
here
time. I said, you know, I see monocles
and
do
raised
things sometimes
at the
that
Reptile
astound
Discovery
me, you know, in
Center
terms of speed.
and toxin venom
And he
laboratories.
said, you know, Carl, they catch mice.
It is
and
not
you see if you ever
uncommon
see
for
a
our
mouse
cobras to
frightened
live 20
moving.
years or more,
You know, they're like lightning.
and they are one of the
So
most important members.
it gives you a sense of how
of our venom
fast a
line.
snake can move if he wants to, you know.
Yeah. This is great.
We're gonna use,
You guys are lucky. I'm lucky. It's really fun to be back here, man.
What
Oh, and by the way, everybody, he's doing all this with everybody watching him. No pressure. You don't want to have a bad day at work.
And then, guys, after the program, I just do a little question and answer
No worries.
with the guests, okay? Now, usually she'll really sit here and let you get a good look at her.
Unlike the T-Rex in Jurassic World, she is definitely motivated by sight.
Hey, Snakey.
She is just hanging out.
Is this snakes? Keep snakes?
That's insane. It's a beautiful animal, huh? But she's so fixed on everybody on the other side of the glass. But if I were to move too much, she'd turn right around and be watching me.
So don't do that.
I'll not do it. That's a good snake you got there.
She's great, right? So we typically, you know, we have about 150 Asian cobras right now, and about a third of them will really sit in hood. The other 2/3 run. But she's lovely. She's terrifically patient, and she's pretty, and so it's a good snake for this particular application. You know.
Speaking of pictures, I think I'll take one. I mean, let's be honest here. I don't care if I'm working. That's I'm throwing that on my Instagram. Come on, Carl, this is great. Thank you.
I think I'll take one.
Yeah, man. You reminded me like I'm letting the moment pass by. Never mind my show. I want to throw this up on the gram. Anyhow, let's do it. Yeah, that's a beautiful animal. I love it.
I just think this is so neat because you can't see it in zoos. Cobras in zoos are always like, ugh, you know, just lethargic, and it's neat to see them live.
There you go, Mother. Good.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Need a help?
I'm okay.
This is awesome.
So then we hold that little sign up. I'm going to answer some questions quick, and then we can
Do
talk.
your thing, do your thing. This is great, man. Let's actually go outside and see what he's up to.
Ready?
Go ahead. Okay, let's go. Come on.
Guys,
How many times has he been bitten?
11 snake bites.
11.
I haven't had one in 10 years now.
Well, I don't want to ask how many, because that's a bad omen, you know.
Oh, that's right.
I mean, how long ago, but
Yeah.
what's the worst? I mean, it has to, you have less time of getting the anti-venom in
You
it.
know, it probably depends. My bites were just in general. Are you asking about my particular?
Yeah.
Well, we had some funny snake bites for several reasons. I'm allergic to snake venom. It's like a bad joke, but you can develop an allergy like you would be to bee venom. So I have a situation called anaphylaxis, an allergic problem that we have to deal with. The last snake bite I had was a rattlesnake bite to my face. I had the snake in my hands, and I turned my ankle and fell, and as I was falling, my arm hit a piece of equipment and drove the snake up into my face. So your blood supply to your head is really second only to your heart probably, so it kind of amplified everything that was happening. So that was a crummy one. But we've had some dreadful bites. We've had mamba bites. I had a cobra put me on a ventilator for 14 hours, and we've had some crummy snake bites over the years. But we have seen people.
I got to be honest with you. This is where I get stoked on working with tortoises and the crocodiles, because at least you can see the crocodile, you know where it is.
So
I don't know.
Were they usually saying like big snakes are actually?
So I'm really excited to actually have been behind the scenes and see this, but you know, you're actually providing an amazing resource for the community that people can come in, see what you're doing.
Idea. You know, definitely Kenan, as in Kamp Kenan, a big part of what the center about is education. So we kind of have this dual application. One, we're producing the venoms, some of them for the antivenom project, some of them for other applications. But the idea then behind the center is to expose people, A, to reptiles in the hopes of promoting some understanding, and then B, to this really unique branch of science, venom production. Again, with this notion of, hey, wait a second, maybe the rattlesnake in my farm, you know, or in the yard is valuable for some other purpose other than its role in nature, which is so important. And then to introduce people, of course, to the local venomous species we have here in Florida. And then to ideally give them an opportunity to ask questions and find out about snakes in general, reptiles in general, that kind of thing.
Well, this has been a lot of fun for
So
me,
that's
man.
the goal.
I'm really excited. Thank you so
Our
much
pleasure.
for allowing us such unfettered access. You
Our
know, it's
pleasure. Thank you
it's
for
pretty
coming.
fun.
Okay,
All right, guys, we'll see you on another episode. We'll have more from Carl. Talk to you soon.